There is an incredible amount of diversity of life on Earth. Certainly one of the ways of measuring it would be to number species. This is a bit problematic. We could get into arguments about how one measures species in asexual populations, and experts who study a group of organisms may differ on whether these populations are separate species or subspecies. But regardless of that, there are certainly millions of species alive on planet Earth, and it is likely that we have identified less than half of the great diversity of life on Earth. Much of this life is microscopic. And so, for example, in these statistics, you can see that even just a milliliter of water can possess an incredible number of bacteria and virus. There's actually more bacteria associated with the human body than there are human cells. So when you look in the mirror, the number of bacterial cells actually outnumber the number of human cells looking back at you. And so we must consider this diversity. Now, when we list what characteristics life must possess in order to be considered alive, viruses typically do not meet all of these, but we should mention viruses. Certainly they are important as causative agents of disease, not only of animals such as humans, but there are viruses which infect bacteria, fungi, plants. So there is a great diversity of viruses. And then there are even viruses which arguably could be considered to be alive, and certainly they can possess more genes in their genome than simple bacteria. So there's a great diversity in viruses. Of the cells which live on Earth, there are two kinds. The smaller, simpler type of cell is known as a prokaryotic cell, and these are represented by the bacteria today. We know of approaching 10,000 species of bacteria, and once again, it is difficult to identify asexual organisms into species, but they are quite diverse. While some cause disease, most are free living, decomposing dead material and playing important roles in the recycling of nutrients. Many are photosynthetic, such as the blue-green algae, which are very important in performing photosynthesis and producing oxygen. Some are actually predators, which can prey on other living things like one-celled organisms, and they are essential to us. We carry many bacteria around with us in our microbiome, and we depend on the nutrients that they recycle, such as nitrogen. There's a great deal of diversity in the biological group considered as protists. They are quite diverse. Many are unicellular, and these cells can be smaller than the cells of large bacteria, but some cells can be large enough to see with the naked eye. Some are predators, which feed on, say, bacteria, while others perform photosynthesis and include different groups of algae, some of which perform as much photosynthesis as all of the world's rainforests, like the diatoms. Some cause diseases, such as malaria. Some can decompose dead material. And so this is quite a diverse group. There are more than 100,000 species of fungi alive today. While some are unicellular, others are not only multicellular, but they are the largest organisms on Earth, with single organisms capable of covering 2,000 acres. They include organisms which cause diseases in humans, diseases in plants, but most are decomposers and vital for the recycling of nutrients. Some can live inside other organisms as symbionts. These fungi include the yeasts, which are of incredible commercial value to humans, and other groups of fungi include parasitic molds, mildews, and smuts, and then the beneficial mushrooms. There's a great diversity of plants on Earth with more than 300,000 species, the second most diverse group of organisms on the planet. Some species are much simpler, such as mosses and liverworts, which lack vascular tissue which let them grow to be tall and also lack leaves and seeds. Others, such as ferns, can grow to be taller because they have vascular tissue but lack seeds. Others have seeds, such as pine trees, but lack flowers. The flowering plants, or angiosperms, are the most diverse group of plants on Earth. Many flowers aren't obvious because they're pollinated by the wind and do not need to be brightly colored to attract animals. With more than 1.5 million discovered species, and quite probably far more undiscovered species, animals are the most diverse group of organisms on the planet. The majority of these animals are invertebrates, representing more than 95% of the species and well over 99% of the individuals. Some invertebrates are simple, lacking tissues, or having tissues but lacking organs. Many are microscopic, such as nematode worms. Of the vertebrates, fish represent about half of the species of vertebrates, with amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals representing the other half.